Be the Talk, episode 148, featuring Paul Sandip. Welcome to Be the Talk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself, I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Paul Sandip. Paul, are you ready to talk?
Absolutely, Nathan. I'm here to talk to you right now.
Paul Sandip is an internationally award-winning product designer, alumni of the prestigious National Institute of Design, electrical engineer, and a cartoonist who redefines everyday objects. His designs are led by customer-focused innovation and a refined sense of style. Paul Sandip, welcome to the talk.
Thank you, Nathan.
So you gave a great talk at TEDx HP Hewlett-Packard Bangalore, and you're calling us from India right now. It's great to have technology be able to do this. Please take us behind the talk.
Primarily, Nathan, it was more about expressing my ideas in terms of how I became a creative enthusiast. And from there, I started actually observing people around me and how that streak of observational capacities were actually taken forward as a career path.
Great. So, and go on.
Yeah. So I've always been a keen observer of everyday life, and in my earlier days, since in school, I used to start writing short stories or anecdotes about small, maybe picnics or visits to the zoo or something like that. I would keep a tab of things which I'm doing on a everyday basis and write things about them. Slowly, I started actually sketching them out so that I felt that while I'm drawing, instead of taking photographs, when I'm drawing things, I'm much more observant to my surroundings. So I started illustrating my write-ups, and thereon I became a cartoonist, a professional cartoonist.
So this
but
is.
Then what I realized, what I realized was that being a cartoonist, I was just criticizing the society around me. I'm just making fun of things which I wasn't finding going right. But then I realized, no, probably there's something better I could do with it, and decided product design could be a career path to it.
I love this because you're an engineer, so you are left-brained, but you also have this cartoonist, artistic part of you, and perhaps a little bit of humor in there as well with cartoons. And I love how you're merging both sides of your brain, the analytics and the analysis with the creativity and the thinking outside the box, and then also being able to engineer and optimize solutions. And I love that you also found that you were kind of being a critiquer instead of an improver, and that you pivoted to improve. So what was it about what you were doing that showed you that you were maybe coming at the whole approach from a criticism instead of an improvement perspective, Paul?
See, as I said, while I was doing my engineering studies, I took up a job as a sub-editor with the English Daily, a night job. And one of the nights while I was returning back from work, it was around 3:30 a.m. in the morning. I used to work in the night shift. So I observed these newspaper boys who were rolling up their papers, and they're about to leave to, actually deliver those newspaper rolls. And I used to observe them very closely, and what I noticed was that it was a humongous task for these little boys, actually, to throw up those newspaper rolls up to, maybe the first floor or the second floor of buildings. And that is when I realized, okay, now I've made an observation. All I could do is probably write a short note or write an article about it, but can I actually improve their lives through some critical thinking or maybe some engineering thoughts? And then a very silly idea had struck. I had created a newspaper launcher.
A newspaper launcher, because these kids are trying to throw their newspapers up to the second or third floor. Or were they throwing them up there, or were they having to walk all the way up the stairs?
No, they were throwing it up.
They were throwing it. Okay.
While bicycle, they would not even get off the bicycle. They would stand in with the bicycle and just try and throw up to the balcony of the apartments, and that was a real task for them. And so that was the point where I realized that maybe a product idea could help them. And fortunately enough, that product idea won me my first product design award. So that was a big impetus for me.
So how did it work, Paul? How were you able to, was it like kind of a newspaper shooting, cannon?
Device, yes.
And so you improved their aim so that it was able to launch it better and at the right velocity so that it would land in the appropriate place.
Yes. It was a spring-loaded mechanism. I'll give you a very simple example. When you have these spring-loaded pens, you see, the usable or the refillable pens.
Clickable pens. You click it to write and click it to
exactly.
avoid
I was inspired
writing.
by that mechanism. That you can pull down the trigger and just click it and it would have a momentum. That was the first product which I designed. And I realized that that's the point where I was probably pivoting from being a critique to a solution provider.
So, I mean, isn't that profound? Because we spend our lives just kind of criticizing things, complaining, whining, and what Paul has done, Talk Universe, has actually used his engineering and his creativity. You don't have to be an engineer to find a better way, but he found a better way, and he found a way to spring load these newspapers. I know somebody comes around my neighborhood and they just throw, their aim is horrible, so they should probably buy your product. Paul, I love your creativity. I love that you didn't just criticize the aim of these paper boys, but that you actually invented a better way. And I know that there's a guy in my neighborhood that can barely hit my driveway. So I think I should set him up with your product so that his aim improves.
Surely. Why not?
So now we've just got a couple of minutes here before the Blitz round, but I know there are several other inventions. You talked about an electric plug. I can appreciate this because it seems like whenever I'm plugging in to the wall at a Starbucks or whatever, the plug is too loose and my power supply falls right out. You fixed one of those. You created a food storage mechanism to save space. You created a sanitary wipe, it looks like, for the trains there. I've ridden some of the trains in India, in Mumbai, and had that experience a little bit. I mean, you've been doing all kinds of things with product design. What would you say is your favorite product other than the newspaper cannon launcher, and how did you come up with that?
Another product was an electrical bulb holder. It so happened that the electrical bulb holder has been there for ages, and it always looked so ugly, and I wondered why it wasn't well designed for. And that was a starting point when I realized, okay, probably, not always I'm trying to solve a technical problem, but maybe I could do something from the aesthetic point of view as well. And so I picked up this product, which was a regular electrical bulb holder, which you mount on the wall or the ceiling to attach a regular bulb to it.
A bulb or a bolt?
And
I'm just making sure I'm understanding correctly. Is it a bulb?
Bulb. Electric bulb.
Electric bolt?
Yes.
Bolt. Okay, great.
So the bulb holder has been there for ages. Like it never got improved over the time, and that's when I realized that probably an aesthetic makeover would give it a really good kickstart in terms of the aesthetics of the product and the way it is looked at the when it's installed in the interior. And what I realized was that it had all those screws and nuts and holes. It looked very industrial. It looked really very industrial. Just by adding a cover to it, I had made the screws and all the fitments invisible. And this I had done back in 2004. And you won't believe, every other shop or store across the country has that bulb holder as a standard electrical product these days.
So they all adopted it.
They all adapted because the idea was so simple. Mm-hmm. The idea was so simple. They all thought, why didn't we think of it?
Sure.
You name any company, and they would have adopted the design. So I think that is one of my greatest impact in the electrical trade industry, which I have given, the electrical bulb holder.
So we've been enjoying this conversation with Paul Sandip. He gave a great talk at TEDx Hewlett-Packard, Bangalore, and we've been really enjoying some of the products that he's created, including a newspaper launcher and a power bolt holder that really revolutionized the aesthetics of power supplies all over. We will be right back with the Blitz Round featuring Paul Sandip. People ask, how could I start a 7-day-a-week podcast? It's because of what I've learned from my mentors. Some of the best mentors in history aren't around anymore. They've left hours of one-on-one mentoring behind in their books. Each month at Classics on Tap, I record a new chapter from a classic business book to help you make a difference. Download your first chapter at classicsontap.com. And we're back with the Blitz Round with Paul Sandip. Paul, are you ready?
Yes, Nathan.
So I'm going to ask you a series of either-or questions related to the process of preparation and the performance of your talk. Here's the first one. Were you selected to speak, or did you apply?
Selected.
Are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
Blender.
And how did that work for you?
Well, I think I always take inspiration from everyday life and try and to improve on things which to the point where you would think, okay, it can't be improved any further. I strip down the idea to the basic minimum requirement so that it is economically viable, because India is a very cost-sensitive country where products have to be really, really very cost-effective. So I think it's both the blend of aesthetics and engineering and a lot of, I think, empathy towards the user. So in a way, that's why I would say a blender.
Absolutely. So would you say you had nerves, or were you in the zone, or neither, or both?
I'm in the zone.
Awesome. How did you get there?
I think hard work. That's the last word, I think. I really think it's hard work and perseverance.
What's a tip, a technique, or a tool that helped you, Paul?
Being honest is really helpful, because I think then you can speak your heart. And I think that is what people are interested in. Because I don't think people are interested in knowing things which everyone knows. They really want to know the real story behind what motivates you or what drives you.
So it's a performance, Paul. So what was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or right before your talk?
No, I didn't experience anything strange during the talk because it was really well rehearsed.
Okay.
Really well rehearsed. The timelines were really, I had used my cell phone timer to rehearse again and again on the timings, because it was very critical for them, as they had informed. The timing is very crucial. And so that's why I kind of avoided any strange situations.
Well, great. Well, we've been enjoying this talk with Paul Sandip. He gave a great talk at TEDx Hewlett-Packard, Bangalore. And here's where you can find him right before we cut for the final word of advice. You can go to paulstudio.in, Paul, Paul, studio.in. And you can also check out his talk on our notes page over at BeTheTalk.com, and we'll have a link to his website. And we'll be right back with Paul Sandip and the final word of advice. Everyone wants to change the world, but not everyone knows the first step. Before you can change the world with your talk, it has to be selected. So grab the templates, timelines, and tools that I use to get my talk selected at BeTheTalk.com. And we're back with the final word of advice for Talk Universe. Paul Sandip, what is it?
Be honest with what you're doing, and that's why you've arrived so far. And I think keep going at it, and whatever it takes, just stick to your own principles. And I think that's we all born unique, so let's keep it that way.
Paul Sandip, thanks so much for taking your time to come on the talk today and share your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you, Nathan, so much. Thank you once again.
Thanks for listening to Be The Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.